Without writing, history itself would be a ghost, whispered, and then forgotten. This is the story of the lineage of scripts that defined empires across continents, a hidden saga of how symbols gave birth to civilization. You will uncover how a handful of marks on stone and papyrus became the invisible architecture that built and sustained the world's greatest empires. We will trace the journey from the first wedge-shaped marks in Mesopotamian clay to the elegant scrolls of Chinese emperors, revealing a truth that reshapes our understanding of power itself. How did a simple merchant's alphabet become the foundation for governing a continent? What does a king gain by controlling not just land, but the very letters his people use? By the end, you will see the modern world in a new light, understanding the silent power of the words you are reading right now. What single invention do you think truly holds an empire together? The story of imperial power begins not with a crown, but with a piece of wet clay. In the Fertile Crescent between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the world's first cities were booming. With this new urban life came a new problem, one of pure logistics. How could a temple priest keep track of grain donations from thousands of farmers? How could a merchant account for shipments of copper and wool arriving from distant lands? The solution was born from necessity, a system of marks pressed into clay tablets with a sharpened reed. We call it cuneiform from the Latin for wedge, and it started as simple pictures, a drawing of a head to mean a head, a sheaf of grain for grain. But this was a revolution in the making. Over centuries, those pictures simplified into abstract wedge patterns, evolving from representing objects to representing sounds, transforming into a flexible script capable of recording not just quantities of barley, but the entire epic of Gilgamesh and the detailed legal decrees of King Hammurabi. This was the true birth of bureaucracy, the invisible architecture of empire. Cuneiform became the administrative backbone for the Akkadian and Babylonian empires, the first to stretch across the known world. A king in his capital could now send standardized orders to a governor in a distant province, knowing the message would arrive intact. Laws could be carved into towering stone steels for all to see, creating a uniform legal identity for every subject, from the wealthiest merchant to the humblest farmer. The famous Code of Hammurabi is a perfect example, its 282 clauses chiseled in cuneiform for permanence. It declared that the strong shall not oppress the weak, establishing a principle of royal justice that centralized power like never before. Can you truly govern millions of people without a way to write down your commands and have them understood everywhere? Archaeologists studying thousands of these clay tablets have uncovered intricate trade networks and diplomatic letters that prove written records were the glue holding these early empires together. They enabled the collection of taxes, the organization of labor, and the recording of celestial omens that priests used to legitimize the king's divine authority. This was the foundational precedent, a lesson that would echo for millennia. To rule vast lands, you must first master the art of making your word permanent. Meanwhile, along the fertile banks of the Nile, another script was being carved that would bind an empire to the gods themselves. Hieroglyphs, the sacred words of the gods, transformed stone and papyrus into a divine proclamation of power. Picture a priest scribe in a sun-drenched temple, carefully etching a pharaoh's name inside an oval loop known as a cartouche. This was not mere decoration. It was a sacred act believed to capture the ruler's soul for eternity and affirm a divine right that connected the mortal king to the cosmic order. This complex system of pictures and sound signs was the lifeblood of a civilization that endured for 3,000 years. It possessed a dual nature, a majestic and formal script for temples and tombs that projected an image of unchanging, divine order, and faster, flowing scripts called hieratic and demotic for the everyday work of running a kingdom. These cursive scripts were the true engines of administration, recording everything from grain taxes and census data to the precise logistics of pyramid construction. Historians note that the building of the Great Pyramids required incredibly detailed records for managing vast labor forces, tons of materials, and complex astronomical calculations, all meticulously documented by scribes. This unbroken chain of written command stretched from the pharaoh's court to the most remote regional governor, creating a centralized state of remarkable stability. The famous Rosetta Stone perfectly illustrates this adaptability, bearing the same decree in 3 distinct scripts: sacred hieroglyphs for the priests, demotic for the common people, and Greek for the ruling administration. It was a masterstroke of imperial communication, ensuring a single royal message could resonate across all levels of society. What does it mean for a writing system to be both a practical tool for governance and a sacred symbol of eternal power? The legacy of hieroglyphs shows us that a script could build an empire not just with laws and ledgers, but by weaving the very identity of the ruler into the fabric of the cosmos, a potent concept that empires for centuries would seek to replicate. Across the sea, the Minoans of Crete built labyrinthine palaces without defensive walls, their power flowing from trade and the sea. Within the great complex of Knossos, scribes used a script we call Lineage, pressing its graceful symbols into soft clay tablets to record the movement of olive oil, wine, and precious saffron. This was the administrative heartbeat of a sophisticated society, likely a thalassocracy, a sea empire. Yet the meaning of these records remains a profound mystery, a locked door to a lost world. We can see the inventory lists, but we cannot read the stories behind them. Then came the Mycenaeans with their fortified citadels on the Greek mainland. They adopted the Minoan script and transformed it into Lineage, a tool for a different kind of power. This script, an early form of Greek, was deciphered in the 1950s, and it revealed a society obsessed with accounting. Lineage tablets were the spreadsheets of the Bronze Age, meticulously logging every chariot wheel, every kilogram of bronze, and every individual assigned to work for the palace. There are no epic poems or royal decrees in Lineage, only lists. It was a purely utilitarian script, the operating system for a highly centralized, bureaucratic warrior society. Linguists and classicists have shown how these syllabic signs tracked the production of perfumed oil and fine textiles, goods that fueled extensive trade networks across the eastern Mediterranean. A famous set of tablets from the Palace of Pylos details the organization of bronze smiths, essential for weapons, and records the offering of golden vessels to deities. This reveals a world where economic management and religious practice were deeply intertwined, ensuring both material and divine support for the state. How could a civilization so advanced in administration leave behind no great literature in its own script? The answer lies in the purpose of the writing itself. These early Aegean scripts were not for glory or art, but for control. They were critical for managing resources and stabilizing complex, multi-settlement political entities. The story of Lineage A and B reminds us that the first step toward building an empire is often the efficient accounting of its wealth, a lesson that would not be lost on the continental powers that followed. Yet the very practicality of these palace scripts also revealed their limits. Bound to clay and kingdom, a new kind of power was brewing on the shores of the Levant, one that would trade complexity for speed. Phoenician merchants sailing from their bustling cities of Tyre and Sidon cared little for the divine etchings of pharaohs or the endless inventories of Mycenaean warlords. Their empire was not of land but of water and wind, built on the urgent need to record a deal before the ship sailed. From this mercantile urgency, they forged a revolutionary tool, a consonantal alphabet of just 22 simple letters. Imagine a trader on a crowded dock, using a stylus to quickly scratch a contract onto a wax tablet or a piece of pottery. This was not a script for priests to ponder or kings to proclaim, but for merchants to log cargo, draft agreements, and send orders across the sea. Its genius was its radical simplicity, abstracting the complex sounds of language into a compact, learnable set of symbols. This was a democratization of the written word. For the first time, literacy was no longer the exclusive domain of a scribble elite trained for years in thousands of complex characters. A sailor, a shopkeeper, a craftsperson could learn this system. Historians note that this adaptability made the Phoenician script a catalyst for cultural exchange, a tool so useful that the cultures they traded with eagerly adopted it. From this single, practical source, two mighty rivers of script would flow. To the east, the Aramaic script, a direct descendant, would become the administrative language of the vast Achaemenid Persian Empire, its letters carrying decrees from the Nile to the Indus. To the west, the Greeks encountered this alphabet and made a crucial innovation, adding vowels to perfectly capture the nuances of their own language. This Greek adaptation would, in time, give birth to the epic poetry of Homer and the philosophical inquiries of Plato. Even the powerful Carthaginian Empire, a colony of Phoenicia, used this very script to manage its vast network of trading posts and territories, rivaling Rome for control of the Mediterranean. How could a tool created for something as mundane as a shipping manifest become the vehicle for humanity's greatest ideas? The Phoenician alphabet answers with a powerful truth that the most enduring scripts are not those imposed by royal decree, but those that spread by sheer, undeniable utility. The sprawling Achaemenid Persian Empire faced a challenge of unprecedented scale. How do you govern a mosaic of peoples from the Nile to the Indus without fracturing into 1,000 warring pieces? Their ingenious solution was not a sword but a script. They adopted Imperial Aramaic, a direct descendant of the Phoenician alphabet, and transformed it into the administrative glue of history's first superstate. This was a strategic masterstroke. The Aramaic script was already widely used by merchants across the Near East, making it accessible and relatively easy to learn compared to the complex cuneiform of Mesopotamia or the hieroglyphs of Egypt. The Persian King of Kings understood that to rule a diverse empire, you needed a common language of command, a tool for efficiency rather than a symbol of cultural domination. Royal couriers racing along the vast network of the royal road carried dispatches written in this uniform script. A decree issued in the royal court at Persepolis could be read and understood by a governor in distant Sardis or a treasurer in Egypt, ensuring that the will of the central authority flowed smoothly across thousands of miles. This created a standardized system of governance that unified countless cultures under a single administrative umbrella. Scholars of ancient Iran point to this as a revolutionary policy of tolerance and control. Local languages and customs were allowed to persist, fostering loyalty, while the machinery of the state, its taxes, its laws, and its military logistics, all operated in Imperial Aramaic. A class of scribes trained in this official script was stationed throughout the satrapies, the provinces of the empire. Their work was the lifeblood of imperial stability, meticulously recording tax revenues, drafting legal documents, and managing the complex accounts of the royal treasury. The discovery of Aramaic documents on fragile papyrus and parchment, from the sands of Egypt to the ruins of Afghanistan, offers tangible proof of its pervasive role. These are not grand monuments, but the humble paperwork of empire, records of grain shipments, soldier pay, and provincial correspondence. Even the monumental Behistun inscription, where Darius the Great carved his victories in 3 forms of cuneiform to proclaim his power, was supported by a day-to-day administration that relied entirely on the fluid, practical strokes of Aramaic. What is the true mark of imperial genius, compelling obedience through force, or fostering integration through a shared system of communication? The story of Imperial Aramaic argues powerfully for the latter. It demonstrates that a pragmatic, accessible script could weave together a heterogeneous realm, proving that the most enduring power often lies not in imposing a single culture, but in building a common framework for understanding. A fragmented continent of warring states, each speaking its own dialect and writing its own script, was a world on the verge of tearing itself apart. This was the reality of ancient China before the rise of the Qin. For an emperor determined to forge a single, unshakable empire from this chaos, the solution was not merely military, it was written. Qin Shi Huang understood that you cannot command millions of people with a dozen different sets of characters. His answer was a monumental act of linguistic engineering, the enforcement of a unified seal script across every province. This was more than a bureaucratic update, it was an ideological conquest. The emperor mandated the standardization of everything from the weight of a coin to the length of an axle, but his most profound act was to standardize the very symbols of thought. He ordered the burning of philosophical texts and historical records from rival states, a policy aimed at erasing competing ideologies and creating a single, approved narrative for the new empire. This created a unified administrative tool, a singular language of power that allowed the Qin, and later the Han Dynasty, to impose one legal and cultural framework from the Yellow River to the southern hills. Sinologists point to this script unification as a defensive structure as vital as the Great Wall itself. The small seal script, with its elegant, balanced lines and structured forms, was a visual representation of the Qin's philosophy of legalism, a belief in strict, centralized control. Every document, every edict, every legal code written in this script became an extension of the emperor's authority, its very appearance echoing the order it was meant to enforce. The role of scribes and administrators was transformed. They became the agents of this new unity, propagating the script through every level of governance. With a standardized writing system, the central court could send precise orders to regional magistrates, collect taxes efficiently, and maintain detailed census records, building a bureaucracy capable of governing millions with a consistency never before possible. Consider the silent, breathtaking ranks of the terracotta army. While these clay soldiers stand as a testament to the emperor's power, it was the written orders, the rosters of conscripts, the logistics tables for feeding and moving a real army that truly mobilized such an immense force. Those lost documents were the true engine of the empire, written in the very script that made such complex organization feasible. What does it mean for a government to decide not just what is written, but how it is written? The Qin reform demonstrates a profound truth, that controlling the script is a fundamental step in controlling the narrative of a civilization, effectively deciding which knowledge is preserved for the future and which is consigned to be forgotten. This act of standardization forged a common Chinese identity that would outlast the short-lived Qin dynasty itself, becoming the direct ancestor of the characters written across East Asia for the next 2,000 years. It proves that the most enduring empires are often those built not just on conquest, but on the shared language of command they leave behind. The power of a unified script could forge an empire of laws, but could it also build an empire of conscience? Far to the east, Emperor Ashoka of the Mauryan dynasty answered this question by carving his remorse and his vision directly into the stone of the Indian subcontinent. After witnessing the terrible cost of a military campaign, Ashoka turned away from conquest and embraced the teachings of Buddhism. His empire, one of the largest the world had yet seen, would now be governed by a revolutionary principle he called Dhamma, a path of righteousness and moral duty. To communicate this radical shift to his millions of subjects, he chose a new and elegant script, Brahmi. Imagine standing at a bustling crossroads in ancient India, seeing a towering, polished stone pillar inscribed with these clear, graceful characters. This was not a monument to a king's victory in battle, but a public declaration of his change of heart and his new policies for a just society. The Brahmi script, with its balanced curves and lines, was likely adapted from Aramaic influences, but it was perfected for this very purpose. It became the vehicle for a form of imperial rule that sought to persuade and uplift rather than simply command. Indologists note that these edicts, often addressed affectionately to his children, the people, represent one of history's first large-scale uses of writing for public propaganda focused on ethics, not just authority. The structure of Brahmi itself was a marvel of linguistic engineering. It was an abugida, a system where each character represents a consonant with an inherent vowel sound, which could then be subtly modified. This made it perfectly suited to capture the phonetic richness of the Prakrit languages people actually spoke, and it would later become the foundation for writing Sanskrit. This adaptability was key to its unifying power. Across a land of countless dialects and local traditions, from the northwest frontiers to the deep south, the same message could be read and understood, creating a shared textual community bound by the emperor's words. The edicts themselves are breathtaking in their scope. They detail administrative reforms, promote religious tolerance, and even establish some of the world's earliest animal protection laws. Officials were instructed to be fair and compassionate, and the king expressed his personal desire for the welfare and happiness of all beings. Here was a script projecting not just power, but a profound sense of care and a blueprint for societal harmony. What does it mean for an emperor to use the written word to publicly apologize for past actions and pledge a better future? The legacy of Ashoka's Brahmi script argues that the most resilient form of control is not fear, but a shared moral vision, and that the most enduring imperial commands are those written as appeals to our better nature. A Roman legionary on the misty frontier of Britannia unrolls a scroll, its message perfectly clear. The same 23 letters that once spelled out the laws of the Senate in Rome now carried orders to a world's edge. This was the power of the Latin alphabet, a script born from the Etruscans who had adapted it from Greek travelers, and then honed by Rome into the ultimate tool of imperial integration. It was more than a writing system, it was the very engine of Romanization. A tax collector in Gaul recorded payments on a wax tablet, a poet in Hispania composed verses, and an engineer in North Africa laid out aqueduct plans, all using this shared code. The relative simplicity and portability of the Latin alphabet made it an ideal vehicle for the military, legal, and architectural projects that defined Roman control. It turned the chaos of countless local tongues into a single language of command and culture. Historians of the classical world point to the establishment of colonies as a primary vector for this script. When retired soldiers were granted land in a new province, they brought with them their language, their laws, and their letters. Schools were founded to teach the sons of local elites how to read and write Latin, creating a class of administrators bound to Rome not just by force, but by shared literacy. The act of drafting a legal document, a property deed, or a grant of citizenship required this literacy, formally weaving individuals into the fabric of the empire. You could see this unifying script carved into the stone of the empire itself. Triumphal arches celebrated military victories with monumental inscriptions, while simple mile markers along the vast, straight roads repeated the emperor's name, reminding every traveler of the power that connected them. These roads were both physical and symbolic, and the words on their markers were the signs that directed this flow of people, goods, and ideas. But perhaps the most profound legacy of this imperial script is how it outlived its creators. The great law codes of Rome, meticulously written in Latin, were preserved through the Middle Ages. They became the foundation for legal systems across Europe, shaping concepts of justice and administration for centuries. How does a writing system become so deeply embedded that it continues to define identity and law long after the legions have turned to dust? The Roman alphabet answers by showing us that a conqueror's most lasting monument is not always made of stone, but of the very letters we use to write our own stories. While Roman letters marched across continents, a quieter form of defiance was being carved into the standing stones of Ireland. In the misty landscapes of the Celtic West, the Ogham script stood as a stark declaration of local identity. Its form was a world apart from the flowing curves of Latin, consisting of sharp, deliberate notches and lines cut directly into the edges of stone pillars. Picture a tribal chieftain along the wild coast, commissioning a stone to mark the boundary of his ancestral lands. Each incised line was more than a letter. It was a claim, a legal statement of ownership and lineage set in stone for all to see. This script, emerging around the 4th century, was not designed to manage a vast bureaucracy, but to anchor a community to its land and its past. Celtic scholars suggest that while its creators were likely aware of the Latin alphabet, they deliberately constructed something entirely unique. It was a cryptic and ceremonial system, a powerful tool of cultural preservation in a world increasingly overshadowed by imperial power. The structure of Ogham is a study in elegant simplicity. It is an alphabet based entirely on groups of 1 to 5 strokes, incised along a central stem line that often follows the vertical edge of a stone. Each distinct grouping represents a different sound from the primitive Irish language. This was not a script for lengthy scrolls, but for potent public declarations. Its primary use was on boundary markers and memorials, functioning as a permanent record of land ownership and familial prestige. These were the very cornerstones of pre-feudal Celtic society, where a person's standing was tied to their ancestry and their right to the soil. Hundreds of these Ogham stones still stand today, particularly across Ireland and Wales, silent witnesses to a society that used writing to consolidate its own power structures, independent of continental empires. They tell us of a people who understood the power of the written word, not for conquest but for cohesion. What does it mean for a culture to choose a script that serves its own community rather than an emperor's command? The story of Ogham offers a profound answer, reminding us that the lineage of scripts also includes those that empowered cultures to withstand the tide of empire through the simple, enduring act of declaring who they were and where they belonged. A new spiritual empire was rising from the alphabet itself. In the 9th century, 2 Byzantine brothers, Saints Cyril and Methodius, received a divine commission that would reshape a continent. Their task was to bring Christian teachings to the Slavic peoples of Moravia, but they carried no army, only a revolutionary idea. They would preach not in the sacred tongues of Latin, Greek, or Hebrew, but in the living language of the people. To do this, they first had to invent a way to write it. The result was the Glagolitic alphabet, a script of breathtaking complexity and beauty, its swirling characters meticulously designed to capture every unique sound of Slavic speech. This was more than translation, it was the gift of a written soul. For the first time, the Slavic peoples could hear the scriptures in their own tongue, an act that democratized faith and challenged the very foundations of religious authority in Europe. Linguists point to this as a profound political and religious act, a deliberate creation of a written identity that would allow Slavic cultures to form their own independent churches and states, free from the direct control of either Rome or Constantinople. The Glagolitic script was a masterpiece of linguistic engineering, but its very intricacy made it difficult to spread quickly. The brothers' disciples working in the First Bulgarian Empire saw the need for a more practical tool. They took the core principles of Glagolitic but rendered them using many familiar characters from the Greek alphabet, creating the script we know today as Cyrillic. This new system was both elegant and efficient, combining the phonetic precision of its predecessor with the visual comfort of a known script, ensuring its rapid adoption. The strategic genius of this script was fully realized by Tsar Boris I of Bulgaria. His adoption of Cyrillic was a masterstroke of statecraft, a move to secure ecclesiastical independence from the Byzantine Empire. By embracing a Slavic liturgy written in Cyrillic, he built a national church that became the bedrock of a unified Bulgarian state identity. This script was the vehicle for liturgy and law, for chronicles and royal decrees, weaving faith and governance into a single, powerful tapestry. Consider the Russian Primary Chronicle, a foundational text of Kievan Rus written entirely in Cyrillic. It did more than record events, it crafted a narrative of divine purpose and princely legitimacy, transforming a collection of diverse tribes into a cohesive political and cultural bloc with a shared historical destiny. How can a set of characters become the soul of a civilization? The legacy of Cyrillic answers by showing that a script can be consciously engineered to build not just an empire of land, but an entire world of shared belief and identity, a spiritual dominion that would span continents and endure for more than a millennium. A sacred text demanded a script worthy of its divine message. In the 7th century Arabian Peninsula, the revelation of the Quran in Arabic transformed a practical script used for poetry and trade into a holy vessel. This was not merely a change in function, it was a spiritual consecration. The very letters themselves became sacred, for they were the physical form of God's final revelation to humanity. This spiritual charge propelled the Arabic script on an unprecedented journey. As the caliphates expanded with breathtaking speed from the Iberian Peninsula to the Indus Valley, the script traveled not as a conqueror's imposition alone, but as the carrier of a New World religion. It was adopted for the meticulous copying of the Holy Quran, a religious duty that honed the art of calligraphy into a supreme spiritual practice. Yet simultaneously, this same script recorded taxes in Egypt, drafted scientific treaties in Persia, and issued royal decrees from Damascus. It became the administrative engine of a vast and complex empire, a single written language that could manage the affairs of millions across 3 continents. Islamic historians highlight how the script's naturally cursive and flowing nature made it supremely adaptable. It could be elegantly written on fragile parchment and paper, stamped authoritatively onto coinage, and carved in monumental scale into the walls of mosques and palaces. This versatility allowed it to inscribe both the eternal word of God and the temporal laws of man with equal beauty and authority. To ensure this sprawling empire functioned smoothly, the Umayyad and Abbasid caliphates undertook major reforms to standardize the script. They improved its legibility and consistency, creating clear forms essential for the thousands of administrative documents that circulated across the realm, managing everything from irrigation projects to military payrolls in a dozen different languages. Nowhere was the unifying power of this script more evident than in Baghdad's Beit al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom. Here, scholars of Muslim, Christian, Jewish, and Zoroastrian faiths gathered under the Abbasid caliphs. They translated the philosophical and scientific works of Greece, the medical texts of Persia, and the mathematical knowledge of India into Arabic. This monumental project did not just preserve ancient learning, it expanded it enormously, creating a new, shared repository of human knowledge all contained within the elegant folds of the Arabic script. If you held a coin minted in Spain or Central Asia during this era, you would find it inscribed with Arabic words. This was a powerful, tangible statement. The script on the coinage signified sovereignty, yes, but it also guaranteed value and facilitated commerce across a vast Islamic commonwealth, a world economically and culturally unified by written words. How often does a single writing system serve simultaneously as a sacred symbol, a practical tool for governance, and the primary carrier of a cosmopolitan high culture? The expansion of the Arabic script stands as a unique testament to this phenomenon, illustrating how faith can propel a set of letters to become the very soul of a transcontinental civilization, binding diverse peoples together through a shared written identity. Deep in the humid air of the Mesoamerican rainforest, a civilization forged a script from the very fabric of the cosmos. The Maya developed the most sophisticated writing system in the pre-Columbian Americas, a complex tapestry of logograms representing whole words and syllabic signs capturing the sounds of speech. This was not a tool for merchants or common record-keeping, but the sacred language of kings and priests, designed to record history, astronomy, and the divine mandate of rulers. A Maya scribe, a revered member of the elite, would carefully paint these intricate glyphs onto bark paper codices or carve them into towering stone stelae. Each mark documented royal lineages, military triumphs, and sacred rituals where the king communed with deities. These acts of writing were a direct assertion of power, proving the ruler was the essential bridge between his people and the supernatural world. Epigraphers who have dedicated their lives to deciphering this script have uncovered its role as a masterful tool of dynastic propaganda. They reveal how the glyphs recorded the precise dates of royal births, accessions to the throne, and bloodletting ceremonies, all designed to legitimize the authority of rival city-states like Tikal and Palenque. The structure of the glyphs themselves is a fascinating puzzle. They were typically read in paired columns, top to bottom and left to right, with each block containing a combination of elements that could convey meaning through both image and sound. This ingenious design made the script incredibly versatile, capable of capturing the nuances of Mayan languages for everything from sacred creation myths to practical records of tribute paid by subjugated towns. Perhaps the most profound use of the script was its connection to time. The Maya developed the long count calendar, a system that placed events within a vast, divinely ordered chronology spanning thousands of years. A king did not merely rule a city, he ruled during a specific, preordained moment in this cosmic cycle. By inscribing his deeds within the long count, he was literally writing his reign into the eternal order of the universe, reinforcing his indispensable role in maintaining the balance of the world. A magnificent example of this fusion of text and power can be found at the Temple of the Inscriptions in Palenque. Its walls and sarcophagus are covered in glyphs that detail the lineage of King Pakal, tracing his divine ancestry and his journey to the underworld, creating an eternal stone testament to his dynasty's legitimacy. What does it mean for a writing system to be so deeply entwined with a civilization's world view that its very use reaffirms the cosmic order? The Maya glyphs offer a powerful answer, showing that a script can be the medium through which a people inscribe their understanding of time, divinity, and royal power directly onto the world itself. A spear is not just a weapon when its shaft bears a name. Across the fjords and forests of northern Europe, the runic alphabets known as the Futhark etched meaning into the very objects of daily life. These were not letters for sprawling archives, but sharp, angular symbols carved into wood, stone, and metal, serving as markers of ownership, memorials to the departed, and vessels of perceived magical power. A rune master might inscribe a blade with the name of its wielder and a protective charm, the act of carving believed to imbue the object with a tangible potency. A trader would mark his goods with runes as they moved along river trade routes, a simple glyph asserting his claim in a world without written contracts. This script was deeply woven into the social, legal, and spiritual fabric of the Germanic tribes and Vikings, representing a profoundly different model of written authority, one rooted in personal identity and the unseen world. Historians of the Germanic world note that runes were incredibly versatile within a predominantly oral culture. They were used for short, pragmatic inscriptions labeling personal items, but also for more complex poems and legal declarations, capturing the spoken word and giving it a kind of permanence. The evolution of the script itself tells a story of adaptation. The older, more complex Elder Futhark, with its 24 characters, eventually streamlined into the 16 runes of the younger Futhark, reflecting linguistic shifts and the needs of emerging kingdoms. It was this younger script that powerful Danish and Swedish rulers began to use to consolidate their power, transforming personal markings into proclamations of royal authority. The most stunning example of this transformation stands in the town of Jelling in Denmark. Here, two massive runestones were erected by King Harald Bluetooth. The larger stone bears a proud inscription declaring that Harald unified all of Denmark and converted the Danes to Christianity. This was not a simple marker, it was a pivot point of state formation, a literal rewriting of identity carved in stone. A script once used for charms and trade was now co-opted by a monarchy to legitimize a new political and religious order, anchoring his reign in both earthly power and divine favor. What does it reveal about the nature of writing when the same angular glyph can protect a soul, secure a trade, and crown a king? The runic tradition answers that the power of a script lies not only in its ability to administer, but equally in its profound capacity to enchant, to memorialize, and to convince a people of their shared destiny under a new sky. A royal chronicle in the highlands of Ethiopia opens with a line of elegant, looping script, tracing an emperor's bloodline not just through history, but directly to the throne of King Solomon. This is the Jazz script, a unique abugida that became the sacred and administrative heart of one of the world's most enduring empires. Each of its characters is a complete syllable, a consonant fused with a vowel, creating a system of remarkable efficiency and beauty perfectly suited to the Semitic languages of the region. This was not a script for fleeting messages, it was designed for permanence, for inscribing divine liturgy and imperial law with equal authority. It served as the liturgical language of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, a living voice of faith, while simultaneously recording the detailed law codes, land grants, and diplomatic correspondence of the Aksumite and later Solomonic empires. This dual role made the written word the ultimate anchor of the state, binding earthly power to heavenly mandate. How does a writing system become the guardian of a nation's soul? The answer lies within a foundational text known as the Kebra Nagast, or the Glory of the Kings. Written in Jazz, this national epic wove scripture and tradition into a powerful narrative of divine right, chronicling the legendary union between the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon and the subsequent journey of their son, Menelik I, to Ethiopia with the Ark of the Covenant. This story was far more than myth, it was a masterstroke of political theology. It provided the Solomonic dynasty with an unassailable claim to legitimacy, framing their Christian kingdom as a new Zion, a chosen land surrounded by non-Christian neighbors. Scholars of African history note that this powerful narrative, codified in the Ge'ez script, allowed Ethiopia to maintain a written historical record and a strong centralized monarchy that resisted external pressures for centuries. The script itself was the vessel for this unbroken identity. You can see its profound integration into the very landscape at the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela. These monumental structures, carved downward into solid rock, are often adorned with Ge'ez inscriptions, linking the architecture to sacred texts and imperial proclamations. Here, script, faith, and royal power were literally carved from the same enduring material, projecting an image of piety and stability that was meant to last for eternity. The Ge'ez script story is one of profound resilience, demonstrating how a writing system can become the living bedrock of a civilization, preserving its history, its faith, and its sovereignty against the tides of time. A king once decided that literacy itself was a barrier to his people's potential. In the 15th century, while the scholars of Korea's Joseon dynasty communicated in the intricate characters of classical Chinese, the common people remained locked out of the written word. This linguistic divide was a wall separating the elite from the populace, and King Sejong the Great saw it as an injustice that weakened his entire kingdom. His response was not a new law or a tax, but a gift of unprecedented genius, a new alphabet called Hangul. He named it Hunmin Jeongeum, the proper sounds for the instruction of the people, and its purpose was revolutionary. This script was designed from the ground up to be mastered by anyone, a feat achievable in a single day. The king's vision was clear: to break the scholarly monopoly on knowledge and forge a direct line of communication between the throne and every farmer, merchant, and soldier in the land. How do you build a stronger empire? You begin by ensuring every subject can read the royal edict. Linguists today still marvel at the system's scientific elegance. The shapes of the consonants are not arbitrary, they are diagrams of the human mouth. The letter for the sound G or K resembles the root of the tongue blocking the throat. The letter for N sketches the shape of the tongue touching the upper palate. The vowels are built from three core elements representing heaven, earth, and man, arranged in harmonious combinations. This was a featural alphabet where the form of the letter itself teaches you how to produce its sound, a concept so advanced it would not be matched in the West for centuries. Such a profound innovation was, of course, met with fierce resistance. The Yongban aristocracy, whose status was built upon their exclusive mastery of classical Chinese, saw Hangul as a threat to their cultural authority and dismissed it as vulgar, calling it Amjul, the script of women and commoners. Yet this resistance revealed the very power of the king's creation. By making literacy accessible, Hangul democratized the foundation of power itself. It was quickly adopted for publishing texts that had always been out of reach, from agricultural manuals that improved farming yields to collections of folk stories that celebrated Korean culture. The state itself began using it for propaganda, as seen in the Yongbai Eochun Ga, an epic poem praising the dynasty's founders. Published in both Hangul and Chinese, it allowed the court's narrative of legitimacy to resonate with the masses for the first time. This was more than a new way to write. It was a tool for national consolidation and enlightenment, consciously engineered to unify a people under a shared, accessible written identity. What does it mean for a civilization to receive the gift of writing not through centuries of slow evolution, but through the deliberate, benevolent design of a single generation? The story of Hangul offers a breathtaking answer, proving that a script can be conceived not just to record an empire, but to elevate every individual within it. A royal decree in the Mughal court was judged first by its beauty, then by its command. The Nastaliq script, with its cascading lines and rhythmic balance, transformed official documents into objects of reverence. In the royal workshops of Herat, Isfahan, and Delhi, master calligraphers were not mere scribes, they were artists of the highest order. Their task was to copy epic poems like the Shahnameh or pen a royal farman with such fluid grace that the paper itself seemed to breathe with intention. This was a visual declaration that the empire possessing such refinement must also be guided by wisdom and justice. The script's sloping, elongated forms were meticulously designed for the paper and inks of the era, each curve and dot placed with a precision that echoed the cosmic order. Art historians point out that the aesthetic was not an afterthought, it was the message. A beautifully rendered tax record or legal judgment was a testament to the state's sophistication and its commitment to an enlightened administration. To be a courtier or a bureaucrat in these Persianate empires, from the Balkans to Bengal, meant mastering this fluid hand. It was the essential skill for anyone wishing to navigate the corridors of power, a unifying thread in a tapestry of incredible diversity. The Mughal Empire, in particular, leveraged this script to bind its vast territories with a common administrative language. Everything from census data and revenue rolls to diplomatic correspondence and historical chronicles flowed from the same elegant source, creating a cohesive cultural and political identity. This shared written language became the bedrock of a trans-regional civilization. The ultimate expression of this philosophy was the creation of illuminated manuscripts, masterpieces that fused Nastaliq calligraphy with intricate miniature painting. These books were not kept in locked libraries, they were wielded as instruments of soft power. A ruler would commission a magnificent volume, like the Akbarnama chronicling Emperor Akbar's reign, and present it as a gift to a rival or an ally. The recipient would behold a volume where every word and every image glorified the patron's achievements, wisdom, and piety. This was cultural diplomacy at its most potent, a silent argument for supremacy written in ink and gold. How can the sheer beauty of a written word become a tool of governance? The story of Nastaliq provides a compelling answer, demonstrating that in empires built on the fusion of many cultures, the most persuasive command is often the one that appeals first to the eye, convincing all who see it of the civilization's unassailable elegance and order. The horizontal line running above a line of Devanagari text is far more than a simple decoration. It is a visual anchor, a unifying thread connecting the divine to the royal court. Known as the script of the city of the gods, Devanagari emerged as the premier vessel for Sanskrit, the language that structured the cosmos for ancient India. Its genius lies in a precise phonetic structure, where each character is meticulously designed to represent a specific placement of the tongue and breath. This clarity was absolutely essential for the priestly class, for whom the correct pronunciation of Vedic hymns was a sacred duty, a matter of maintaining cosmic order itself. A single mispronounced syllable in a ritual was believed to have cosmic consequences, and Devanagari's accuracy ensured the flawless transmission of knowledge from the Rig Veda to the philosophical depths of the Upanishads for over 2 millennia. This was not merely preservation, it was the active maintenance of a spiritual and intellectual foundation that would underpin kingship across the subcontinent. How do you build a civilization that lasts? You begin by writing its soul with unerring precision. This sacred script naturally evolved into the ultimate tool for royal legitimization. Kings and emperors quickly understood that to rule, they needed to inscribe their authority within this timeless framework. They commissioned copper plate grants, deeds of land donation to Brahmins or temples, written in flawless Devanagari. These were more than administrative records, they were permanent legal documents etched onto metal, proclaiming the king's piety and his role as the supreme patron and protector of Dharma. Elaborate prashastis or panegyrics were composed by court poets, glorifying a ruler's lineage, his military victories, and his public works, often linking his birth to the actions of a god. These inscriptions, carved on temple walls and monolithic pillars, wove the temporal ruler directly into the sacred narrative of the land, arguing that his power was a divine necessity. The great epics, the Mahabharata and Ramayana, circulated in Devanagari scripts, their stories of righteous kings and cosmic battles providing a shared cultural and moral compass for society, from the peasant to the prince. A ruler who aligned himself with these texts was aligning himself with the very definition of righteous rule. Centuries later, this deep cultural connection would be harnessed for a powerful political revival. As the Maratha Empire rose to challenge the dominance of the Mughals, they consciously adopted Devanagari as a symbol of indigenous power. The Marathi language, written in this script, became the official medium for the sprawling Confederacy's administration. All correspondence, from military dispatches to complex financial records detailing the collection of Chauth and Sardashmukhi taxes, flowed through the hands of scribes using Devanagari. This was a deliberate assertion of a separate, sovereign identity, a bureaucratic declaration of independence that managed a territory stretching across much of the Indian peninsula. The script that had once codified sacred law was now organizing cavalry movements and treasury accounts, proving its immense versatility. Philologists note that this practical application helped standardize modern languages like Hindi and Nepali, carrying Devanagari's unifying power into the contemporary era. Its characters on a temple wall in Tamil Nadu or a royal edict in Rajasthan served as a constant, visible reminder of a shared civilizational fabric, woven from threads of spiritual wisdom and earthly authority. What does it mean for a single writing system to carry both a prayer and a tax ledger? The story of Devanagari suggests that the most resilient scripts are those that can hold the profound weight of a civilization's entire being, from its highest spiritual yearnings to the most practical demands of its governing hand, ensuring that identity itself is never lost to time. Kublai Khan commanded an empire of staggering diversity, a realm where a dozen different tongues were spoken from the Danube to the Sea of Japan. To rule such a domain, he understood that a single sword was not enough. He needed a single script. His solution was as ambitious as his conquests, a universal alphabet designed from scratch to bind every language in his empire to one administrative code. He entrusted this monumental task to the Tibetan monk Phags-pa, who crafted a new syllabic script based on the Tibetan writing system. This was not an evolution, it was an invention, a top-down solution to the chaos of multilingual bureaucracy. The Phags-pa script was engineered as an abugida, where each character represented a consonant and an inherent vowel, a structure intended to transcribe the sounds of Chinese, Mongolian, Uyghur, and Persian with perfect clarity. Imagine a Yuan dynasty official in Beijing drafting a tax report that could be read without translation by a colleague in Central Asia, all written in the same imperial script. This was the dream of seamless governance, a written language that would bypass centuries of linguistic tradition to create a new, unified identity for the Mongol state. Historians of the empire see this as a breathtakingly modern idea, one of the first conscious attempts to design a script for purely political unification on a continental scale. The Khan promoted his new alphabet with absolute authority. It appeared on the world's first standardized paper currency, a bold statement that economic power now flowed through these new characters. It was stamped onto the official seals of government and carved into the paisa, the metal passports that granted safe passage to merchants and envoys along the Silk Road. To hold a paisa inscribed with Phags-pa was to hold the Khan's personal guarantee, a tangible piece of imperial power that facilitated the movement of people and goods across 10,000 miles. Yet for all its logical design and imperial backing, the script never truly took root. Its very complexity worked against it, requiring scribes already fluent in local systems to learn an entirely new and intricate set of characters. The forced implementation from the top down sparked quiet resistance from the powerful, entrenched scribble classes who saw no need to abandon the deep cultural roots of Chinese characters or the functional Uyghur alphabet. The Phags-pa script remained an official language of administration, but it never became a language of the people, of literature, or of the heart. It stands as a powerful lesson in the limits of imperial will. What does it take for a writing system to truly live? The story of the Phags-pa script suggests that a script imposed by decree, without organic adoption and cultural buy-in, is destined to remain a tool of the state, and when that state changes, the tool is laid aside, leaving behind a fascinating testament to an empire's ambition to write its own reality. A script can be a fortress for a culture's soul. For the island empire of Japan, the adoption of Chinese characters was not a surrender but the beginning of a brilliant act of linguistic engineering. The Japanese imported these complex characters, known as kanji, for their profound conceptual power, using them to represent core ideas and words borrowed from Chinese civilization. Yet the native Japanese language had a completely different structure, full of grammatical particles and inflections that kanji alone could not capture. The solution was the creation of two syllabic scripts, hiragana and katakana, each a set of simple characters representing distinct syllables. This hybrid system gave the written word a unique flexibility and became the key to preserving Japanese identity. Within the refined world of the Heian court, aristocratic women, often barred from the rigorous study of formal Chinese, embraced the flowing, cursive lines of hiragana. With this accessible script, they composed intimate diaries and towering works of literature, most famously Murasaki Shikabu's The Tale of Genji. This was not merely entertainment, it was the forging of a distinct Japanese cultural voice, a written realm where native aesthetics and emotions could flourish apart from continental models. Japanologists note that this development was a masterful balancing act, allowing Japan to selectively absorb Chinese philosophy, law, and technology through kanji, while using kana to protect and develop its own unique spirit. This three-script system provided immense expressive power, with each part playing a specific role. Kanji anchored a text with core meaning and imported concepts. The gentle curves of hiragana wove everything together, providing grammatical glue and writing native Japanese words. The angular katakana was reserved for emphasis and later for transcribing foreign loanwords, acting as a built-in linguistic filter. This intricate writing apparatus became the bedrock of administration for centuries. The Tokugawa shogunate, which ruled during the long peace of the Edo period, relied on this hybrid system to govern. Official decrees and complex legal codes were drafted in a mix of kanji and kana, ensuring precise meaning while remaining accessible to the educated samurai and bureaucratic class. These documents stabilized the feudal state and carefully controlled the flow of information, using the written word to maintain social order across a tightly regulated society. What does it reveal about power when a culture designs a writing system that can actively filter foreign influence? The Japanese kana systems stand as a profound answer, demonstrating that the most resilient empires are those that learn to write their own story, even with another civilization's pen. A single person can gift an entire nation the power to write its own story. In the early 19th century, a Cherokee silversmith named Sequoyah, with no formal education and no prior knowledge of any writing system, accomplished this monumental feat. He observed the power that written words held for the white settlers and became determined to create a similar tool for his own people. Working for more than a decade, often in secret and through periods of hardship, he analyzed the sounds of the Cherokee language and devised a complete syllabic script. Its 85 characters, each representing a distinct syllable, formed a system of breathtaking logic and efficiency. A person could learn to read and write in their own language in a matter of days, not years. The impact was immediate and profound. Within a few short years, the Cherokee nation achieved a rate of mass literacy that rivaled and even surpassed that of their white neighbors. This was not a script imposed by a foreign ruler, but one born from within the community, a deliberate act of intellectual and cultural self-defense. Scholars of Native American studies point to this as a unique achievement in human history, a writing system invented by a single individual that was rapidly adopted by an entire nation. Suddenly, the Cherokee people could communicate complex ideas across vast distances, preserving their laws, their news, and their personal thoughts in a script that was uniquely their own. The founding of the Cherokee Phoenix, a national newspaper printed in both English and the Syllabary, became a powerful voice for the nation. It disseminated the tribe's laws, reported on current events, and articulated a unified Cherokee perspective to the world. This written network created a powerful sense of national unity and sophisticated political identity at a time when the United States government was actively pursuing policies of forced removal and cultural assimilation. The syllabary became the administrative backbone of a modern constitutional government, enabling the Cherokee to manage their own school system, court procedures, and political affairs with remarkable organization. It was a clear, written declaration that they were a sovereign people capable of self-governance. How does a set of symbols become a shield for a culture? The Cherokee Syllabary answers by showing that literacy, when developed from within, is not just a skill but an assertion of existence. Even after the tragic enforcement of the Trail of Tears, a period of immense hardship and loss, the script endured. It was used to record the experiences of that difficult journey and to rebuild community in new lands. Its survival into the present day, taught in schools and adapted for use on computers and smartphones, is a living testament to its original purpose. It continues to defend Cherokee identity, proving that a script conceived in resistance can carry a people's voice across generations. This story adds a crucial dimension to our understanding of imperial scripts, revealing that the written word can be a tool for a nation to defend its sovereignty, to declare to the world, and to remind itself that its story is far from over. A stark new alphabet was carved into the rugged landscape of the Utah Territory. Brigham Young and other latter-day saint leaders envisioned the Deseret alphabet as more than just letters. It was a tool to build a self-sufficient society, a literal kingdom of God set apart in the Great Basin. This phonetic script, with its 38 distinct characters, promised to simplify English by ensuring every letter corresponded to a single sound, eliminating the confusing spelling rules that made literacy difficult. The ambition was immense, to use this new writing for school books, official newspapers, and even currency, creating a visible and unbreakable bond of cultural identity for the pioneer community. Historians of the American West point to this as a profound attempt at linguistic separation, a way to strengthen the community's cohesion after their difficult journey to escape wider American society. A committee at the University of Deseret worked to design the characters, aiming for a system where words were spelled exactly as they sounded. This was a project of pure idealism, a belief that a more perfect script could help build a more perfect society. The community invested significant resources publishing portions of their scripture, the Book of Mormon, in the new alphabet. They printed elementary school primers to teach children and even minted a few coin issues with the distinctive characters, embedding their vision of a separate destiny into the most practical aspects of daily life. For a brief period, the sounds of children reciting lessons in the Deseret alphabet echoed in some Utah schoolhouses, yet the practical challenges were overwhelming. The cost of casting new typefaces and printing all materials in the parallel script was enormous for the fledgling community. For most adults, relearning how to read and write was an immense hurdle when the familiar Latin alphabet worked perfectly well for communication with the outside world and for their own established records. The grand project gradually faded, its use dwindling to a few poignant headstones and rare personal documents. These surviving relics are quiet monuments to a staggering ambition. What does it take for a new script to truly take root in the hearts of its people? The story of the Deseret alphabet suggests that even the most logically designed writing system, introduced for powerful ideological reasons, may struggle against the relentless tide of a globally established script. It remains a powerful case study, not of an empire conquering others, but of a community attempting to write itself into a separate existence, a testament to the limits of a script's power when it is not fully embraced by the people it was meant to defend.